So sometimes something I'd love to see, for parents is being able to say to their child, I can see that you're struggling with this, but I believe that you can do it on your own.
Yeah.
Or that you can have a try, and not to create separation, but to empower that little person to believe in themselves and that they can face challenges. Because that resilience is very, very, it underlies a lot of different ways of interacting with the world. That belief in their self.
Welcome, Alison Westrupp, to the Human CV.
Thank you for having me.
So excited because I never really met you. I've seen you once. I was at a housewarming of your beautiful place. You were busy hosting and doing your thing, and we didn't ever sit down and have a proper one-on-one, and today's the day. Yeah, so you did some preparation for today in going on the website and filling in a couple of questions, percentages, thumbs ups or downs, and then you created something. Yes. How did that go for you?
Fabulous. I loved it. I love diving into the way that I work, and even just reflecting through the process of answering the questions is a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed it.
So any personality tests that you were aware of before? Have you dabbled in this whole place before?
Yes, I studied psychology at university. So throughout that process, we looked at tests from an objective perspective as well, about how they were created and what purpose they serve. We were able to try some, and I had really interesting results with that. And throughout my career in education, we've had the opportunity to practice those tests to see how we can work within a team. Yeah. So I love it. Yeah.
Lots of insight coming from them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's something I'm familiar with.
And also sometimes, at least for me, is like I see the result and I'm like, damn it, why do you know that about me?
It's plain for it. Yeah, there it is, plain as day. Yeah.
Were there any surprises that you came about as you saw, the test evolving and the, more and more test results coming, and you put it into the Human CV form? Were there any that stood out to you, surprised you, or confirmed what you already knew?
I think a lot confirmed what I already knew, and I was really thrilled with that actually, because it gave me what felt like a place to start from to move forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is something to brag about, because it's, just who you are. However, did you know that your personality type and gender combination is one of the rarest ones out there, the INFJ?
Doesn't surprise me at all. A lot of times within my life, I've found that the way I operate is quite different from maybe what others do, and that's not a positive or a negative thing. It's just something that I've noticed, and it's something I want to celebrate, which was why I was very excited to come on this journey. Was because I think in the past I've tried to change that, or I've taken it for granted, or I've squashed it down, and I'd like to acknowledge the truth about the way that I am, and enjoy that and celebrate that.
Wow. So. And for some reason, I seem to attract these special snowflakes, because two of my best friends are that as well. So I should just start a little, support group for the people who are. In this case, it's INFJ, so it means intuitive, introvert, intuitive, feeling, and then judging, not in a judgmental way, but in a way that is, identifying things and pointing them out and putting value or judgment into them. So that means also, for the people who don't know about these tests, you are capable and willing to feel very deeply and very strongly. But on the surface, nothing.
Yeah.
How does it show up in your life so far?
I think it shows up in my work. I'm very confident in decision making, and very quick to take on information and assess that information and sort that information and make a decision. But then reflecting on how that might impact other people on an emotional level is something that I struggle with. So that would be one clear way for me that it shows up. And I know that I need to be understanding how these other people are feeling, but it's hard for me to put myself in those shoes. I try to do that, but I just draw a blank sometimes.
Yeah.
And in that situation, learning step by step, little bit by little bit, to give me the tools to do that. Absolutely I can.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a learning process for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
It's what I would like with the people who are watching this is to have an acceptance that all personality types can be successful in all jobs. Sometimes it's a bigger stretch than others. And often when you see someone who shows up on paper as an introvert, even though what's really funny to me is you have the Myers-Briggs showing up as an introvert. However, when we look at the Ocean or Big Five test, you score very high on extroversion, and you did that test on the same day. So how?
When I think of these sorts of things, it always draws my mind back to another personality test I did in our workplace.
Yeah.
And there were 4 categories. They were classed under birds. There was a dove,
the peacock,
a peacock, an owl, and an eagle. I scored very highly in all of them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very representative of me and who I am. Everything I do it huge, do it big. I'm all in.
Yeah.
Whether that's intentional and I'm choosing to do that and utilizing my energy in that way, or just naturally when I'm involved in something, it all comes out and I'm 100% invested. And so that doesn't surprise me, but I think it is part of a challenge of my life as well. You know, I know how I feel inside, but the way that other people interpret the way that I interact with the world, they see confidence, they see self-security, all of these sorts of things, but underneath the surface that might not be reflective of what's actually happening. Yeah
That's so beautiful.
It's just who I am. I'm everything in all directions.
And it's great because even though you said I'm not usually good at identifying how my actions or my decisions that I come to with an outwardly confident mind or face, you will still be able to empathize and to put yourself into other people's shoes. I think even more than you just gave yourself credit for.
Yes, yeah.
Because the beauty of introversion is it's not so much that these people cannot be around others. Often it's falsely portrayed, right? It's they get their energy from times alone or from times that they reflect with. Which then means once you've filled your own energetic cup, and we can come later to, you know, how you do that and what is your secret sauce to fill that nourishment inside, you can then give a lot to others, and you can show up as an 86% extrovert. And also my closest, more introvert friends are extremely extroverted one-on-one. So they might gain that energy from the one-on-one interaction. It doesn't drain them at all. It leaves them fizzing. So I guess that's how you show up too. Now, when it comes to you saying, hey, this is how it shows up at my work, what do you do? And have you been doing this for your whole career? Have there been some major changes in your jobs? Like, can you fill me in where you've been, what you've done, and doing this all as an advocate, INFJ?
So I work in early childhood, and I have my entire adult career never planned on going into early childhood education. Never. In all of my school reports, Alison will make a great teacher. Alison will make a great teacher. Year on year on year on year. That was the comments.
So you never left. You just stayed from childhood in the classroom.
And when I finished high school, I completed high school when I had just turned 17. So I was very, very young. And I wasn't ready to go to university emotionally, or I didn't know what I wanted to study. So I spoke to my leaders at my high school and said, what do you recommend? And they said, well, we have a teacher aiding position here. And so that will give you some skills, some time and some income until you decide what you want to do. Well, after 2 days, I was hooked.
Wow.
So I completed my year being a teacher aide. And this was a community college, so there was actually adults in our class as well. So I was younger than some of the students. So very, very interesting dynamic, but became immediately passionate about education. The particular story was there was a 15-year-old in the class, in the mathematics class that I was helping out. And so my job was just to kind of float around the periphery and just support where the children had needed the people needed extra support after the lesson. And there was a 15-year-old who wasn't able to do very simple multiplication, you know, and they had been through 11 or 12 years of schooling already. And so I thought, there's something happening in the system here that is failing this person. And I tried in all my wisdom to help this person, and they said, no, I'm just going to leave school to go and steal cars. And I knew that I couldn't change the course of their life, but I thought if I can work with people who are younger than this and work within a system and be in the system to support these young children to value education, then I can contribute. So I went and studied education and psychology, and then worked as a support worker in education after that, and have just progressed through my career. And now I'm second in charge of an early childhood centre.
Amazing.
And love it, passionate about it, feel like I'm very good at it. Can be draining, battle imposter syndrome sometimes, but I see the value in my mahi, and I love it. I'm driven to be there and do my best every day.
Wow, that's a journey. And yes. I love how you were so young and you said yes to a chance to try something out. And even after 2 days, you recognized that suits me. And then, so for the people who are not from New Zealand, which is where we live, early childhood, what age are the children that you are currently mainly responsible for?
So the centre that I work at cares for children from 2 years old until 6 years of age.
Okay.
In New Zealand, there is a cultural understanding that children go to school at 5, but we believe that children actually do better at starting school beyond 5. So we cater for children up to 6 years of age, which is the legal requirement in New Zealand for going to school.
Wow.
So we have 2 to 6, and I work in a 3 to 6 year old environment.
So safe to say you're no longer the youngest in the classroom.
No, no, not anymore. No.
And yet, I love that you mentioned that word, because imposter syndrome is big. It happens to the leadership clients that I have that can be in their 60s, and yet there is sometimes this feeling that I'm not good enough. Even if you have been in this career for a long time, you've studied, the psychology, you're working tricks around it, but it still shows up. How would you encourage someone who's also experiencing imposter syndrome? What are some things you have already learned in your journey that help you to maybe accept it, maybe reduce it, maybe just, hand in hand walk into the classroom with your imposter syndrome? Like, what do you utilize, and how would you help people who experience the same?
The 2 things I would say, first, actually look for the evidence that you're not worthy of being there. And when you begin to look around, you won't see that, seek that feedback from your colleagues, look at, any documentation or things that you've had to do, like actually find that evidence within your environment, whatever evidence is available to you, and challenge your belief, so that's something that I do. I was reflecting just the other day, I was like, why am I feeling like I'm not good enough? And I was taking an emotional interpretation that was just simply the wrong interpretation of a situation. And so I had some kōrero, some dialogue with a colleague, and we flipped that narrative. I said, here's how I interpreted this. Did this come across that way? And she said, absolutely not. She said, I think that you're doing an incredible job bringing your insight to this. And the other thing that I would say is reflect on everything that's led to this point.
Right.
You are experienced, you're passionate, you're caring, you've done your research, you're learning your mahi, all of those things. So reflect on all of the positive parts of your pathway that have led you to that journey, and try to keep those focuses in your mind. Look for the evidence that confirms that you are welcome to be where you are. There is validity in your position, but also reflect on all of the things that you've done that have led you there. And remind yourself that you can learn as you go. Nobody is perfect, nobody can know it all and have all of the answers. And trust that you're learning, and even if you make a mistake or things are imperfect, that's still okay. You are still welcome to continue what you're doing.
I feel empowered to be here right now after this pep talk. I love that you said it in the way you said it. And it might come because of your profession, but I always say to people, it's the truth if it's very simple, if a 5-year-old could understand it. And the way you explained why imposter syndrome is just, something hijacking the brain, and it's not necessarily true. Don't believe everything that you think. A 5-year-old can understand, there is a reason why you are here. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And these are some skills that led you to this point. And even the counter checking with someone else, you grab a peer, you grab a friend, say, hey, this person said that, and I'm thinking this about that. Is that true? Does it serve me? Can I let it go? So I think it's a good truth to share if it's something so simple that you can have simple steps to mitigate the effects that it can have, because it's crippling for some people.
Yeah, definitely.
Like they would not reach their potential.
And it can become a negative sort of cycle. If you're feeling like you're not worthy of being there, you will see that evidence that reminds you of that, even if that's not a true interpretation of a situation.
Absolutely.
You know? So shifting that focus.
Yeah,
which is hard to do, but we can do that. Even if it's just one little minute moment in a day where we can shift the thinking on that.
It's so true. Whenever my clients come up with, hey, imposter syndrome, I usually give them a practical tool. And it's actually two. One is a brag list and one is a bouncer list. So the brag list is you just write down all your accomplishments, the things you just said verbally, you know, I've studied psychology and I've tested this out and I've, you know, done all these things that took some extra courage to do, and yet I've done them, and people write me nice mails, and that's why I know I'm good enough to do this and better. And so that's the brag list. And often when people are in this slump of imposter syndrome, I said, print it out, write it down, put it somewhere visible. So it could be a place that you see all the time, like put it in your bathroom, in your toilet, or next to your mirror in the morning. So when you brush your teeth, you see it, or even put sticky notes on your computer monitor. And so the bragging things. And the bouncer list is when I say, well, what is some negative thing that somebody could say about you? And then if you are a bouncer in a nightclub and say, you don't get in here, what would be your response to that thing? So for example, you know, I'm too young to do this teacher job. There's older people in the class. What will they think? And then I'm young, and therefore they get a new perspective from me that they wouldn't get otherwise. So they just have these bouncer sentences. Yeah. So who knows who watches this, and it might be a little trick for them.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm having another look at your human CV, which is a complement to the CV that you already have, which shows your past and where you've been. But I would like to have a moment of you talking on the sustainable development goals. So the ones that you chose as your top two, surprisingly not number 4, quality education. There's 2 others that you chose even higher. And one is sustainable cities and communities. And the other one, which I don't think another guest had so far, is number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. What is it about those 2 that makes you feel so strongly towards them and, you know, worth putting as your striving point, your goals?
I felt that those 2 were realistic in the modern world that we live in. I thought there were so many goals there, and it was actually very, very hard for me to choose. But I felt like we have institutions and we have cities, and these are literal frameworks of how our lives operate. And cycleways, for example. So this is an example that might help articulate my thinking. Christchurch is building a lot of cycleways. Yeah. Fabulous, amazing. But the thing is, there is a lot within our culture and also within our infrastructure that doesn't support cycleways. Yeah. You know, there are a lot of families who have to travel a long, long way, and there isn't, you know, our weather in New Zealand is absolutely terrible. And so the cycleways are amazing and important for sustainability. But the cultural shift to support that is not happening simultaneously. You know, we should have transport hubs where there's shelter, there's warmth, you know, clean, safe places for families who are cycling through an easterly or a southerly or in the rain to actually, you know, get changed or park their bikes securely. And so for me, if we want to have those cultural shifts, we need to start with the physical. One way that I felt was tangible and realistic and able to be achieved, you know, is to focus on those infrastructures that we already have, the systems that are in place and the physical cities that are in place, and what shifts can be made to those that will impact the culture and how that's utilized. So it was difficult to choose, and there are so many important goals. But for me, you know, I'm very practical in terms of what's practically achievable. Making those fundamental shifts in those ways will have flow-on effects to how the humans interact within those environments and promote well-being, which then has circles for, you know, people are in a place where they're able to care for others or provide for others because they have their needs met.
I have to distract for a moment. Guys, can you see what makes an INFJ so special? They dream and they put practical stuff in place in one brain. This is rare. You know, we have often people who are big dreamers and they're not able to explain it in clear, practical, applicable terms. And your brain works in this way, which sometimes might make you feel as, why is not everybody doing this?
It can be very frustrating for me if, you know, in in our early childhood setting, we have a lot of conversations about planning for children, and we have to implement policies and all of these things, and people have these lovely ideas, and I'm going, where is the practical steps? What are we actually doing about this? It's great to talk about it, but what are we actually going to do to move towards this goal? So yes,
big idealist in you, and also a big chunk of impatience, because you see every day, probably when you see the young children in your school or center, you hear about the stories from home, like, we would cycle but, or we would love to take the bus but, and you see the implications that come from not having strong institutions, from not thinking sustainability through all the pathways.
So, and how our physical environment and the way that humans are, our human nature and our basic needs, how they integrate.
Fantastic. I just love the way you articulate things and how passionate you are about that.
Oh, thank you.
I can feel the fire. It's like, whoa, okay, we got. What else gets you fired up? What are some other things where you go, oh, people should just do?
Oh, that's a very good question. I might have to reflect on that a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. We can see what comes through. In the moment, things would make me very fired up. But there's nothing that's jumping. There are things. There will definitely. They're just not jumping to my mind right now.
Well, then I will get a topic on the table that I know you can talk about, because you and my partner know each other, and you share a passion that I don't share with him. I love the beach and the warmth. You love the mountains and the hills, and sometimes even the cold, I assume. What is it about the outdoors, the hiking, the mountains that get you just, feel alive and,
They gave me goosebumps just thinking about that when I took that inhalation. For me, so I grew up in the countryside, a free-range child. Me and my 3 siblings, from dawn till dusk, we would be outside. And so it's part of who I am, your upbringing shapes you in that way. And the big sky, fresh breeze, all of that will always make me feel wonderful. But my real passion for the outdoors started when I was working full-time and studying full-time, and I was also taking dance classes 6 nights a week. So I was very, very busy, very full to the brim. This was before I'd done a lot of healing, and so my emotional capacity was stretched. I wasn't looking after myself in lots of ways, and so I took to the hills as a way to process, literally stomping it out. I would drive to the mountains on a Friday night with my music as loud as it would go, singing along, climb up the biggest hill as fast as I could. And then through looking for those places to go, that appreciation started, and it shifted as I healed and finished all of those busyness things in my life. It shifted from as a way to process to actually really filling my cup and being something that I was seeking for the pure joy of being in that environment. I feel deeply connected to the environment when I'm outside. I love wearing the same clothes for like 5 days and washing in a waterfall and waking up under the stars. That's deeply part of me. Barefoot, all of those things. I have a very, very kind of earthy, hippie side, for lack of a better description. And I've had people say to me, they've never met anybody who vacillates between like feral forest goddess to professional educator so easily.
Ballet outfit and patchouli smell, right? Love it.
And so, initially what got me into the mountains was that need for processing and just that space and peace to just clear the mental clutter from a very busy life. And then that shifted to me actively seeking that, because I value that time alone, as we talked about earlier, the solitude and just the absolute beauty of our natural world.
Such a contrast to I assume a loud and noisy day job, where the kids are screaming and having their moments and all that, and then the mountain. I do love how you actually shone a light on what I find a very crucial point, and most people don't think about it. Nature, or the environment in general, whether it's a beach, whether it's a hill, a forest, it can be for a human what the human needs in that moment. It can be the sparring partner that works out your thighs as you want to burn off the energy from the week. Even after 6 dance classes, you're like, no, I still want to feel the burn, and take the biggest hill and sweat and go up there and scream a bit. And then as you go down and settle, that you might get something else, maybe the peace, or then you start noticing the bird song again.
Yes.
After it was too noisy before. And again, it's the same whether it's the beach or something else. It gives people what they need in that moment. So my partner and I went for a sunrise beach walk. We do this a lot these days, and we are on that same beach. We sometimes see even the same people, and everybody gets something different out of that beach. Somebody wants to jog, another takes their dog, someone else needs to process and stare at the ocean for a while and maybe grieve or whatever it is. So nature is so malleable and adaptable, and the changing lights and
our
views
systems are attuned to it as well. I think our bodies, there would have been times where we spent all of our time in the outdoors. You know, our body is ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my body's become clouded of this normal life of living inside buildings, air conditioned all of the time. And I love tapping into that side of me that, you know, enjoys the raindrops just falling off a leaf, you know, and being stimulated by something like that, you know. So I like to see it as a gift that I'm giving myself, you know, tapping back into that part of our physical being that does affect you in a holistic way.
That's true. I think it's like when we talked about imposter syndrome and you said you start questioning your thoughts and whether they are true, then you know you're already on your way out of that imposter syndrome by being there and looking at it neutrally almost. And when you are at this point of, I'm seeing that raindrop leave that leaf, yes, that's how it works, then you know I'm in the moment. Yeah. I'm with nature, I'm in a conversation with Pachamama, call it whatever, Papatuanuku, and you are aware of what's currently going on. And that's the space that you need to be, where your new ideas come from, where your passion for projects comes from, or where a new, you know, situation comes from.
Absolutely, and you can let go of those things that you don't want to hold on to.
Yeah, at the bottom that
have found their way in.
No, at the top. Yeah. Can you do the same in other places? Like for me, as I said, the beach is my kind of space, or is it definitely forest or hill or mountain that has to have that? Is it the physical challenge that you need to get into that mental space?
I certainly have my preferences.
You do?
Yeah, I have my preferences. I definitely forested hills.
Yeah.
If I have a choice, it will be climbing a forested hill through native forest and getting out onto the tops. And then along the way, there'll be a clear stream with waterfalls. Yeah, so the clear moving water, the forest, and then being up on the tops in that fresh air. But I tend to, and as long as hills are involved, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
You briefly mentioned your dance passion, career. What is going on there? Are you still dancing? Does it include, day-to-day hobbies or performances or training, or have you let go of that and now it's the hills and the hiking that replace that?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And I have an interesting relationship with dance, and I've had a recent shift in my awareness about that actually. When I was a child, I did tap dancing, and so I always had a lot of energy, I guess, and the adults in my world suggested I did dancing as a way for that to be released. So I always danced from when I was very young, and then I have done Irish dancing and flamenco dancing, pretty much whatever was available to me and what my family was able to provide for me, I did. As an adult, I trained pole dancing 6 nights a week. I always loved circus arts. But at the time there wasn't a lot of that available, so pole was just like the perfect strength, fitness, flexibility, up in the air, amazing. And so I ended up stopping doing that from sickness, which was a real shift for me, but one I've come to terms with. So I'm not dancing at the moment, but I heard a theory recently that it's very, very important for people to have outlets for creativity, because there's parts of our brain that would have served us a long time ago to be planning and thinking ahead and problem solving. And if we don't have an outlet for that overthinking, that can give us anxiety and all of those sorts of patterns of thought. But I'd never seen the value in hobbies before. I never understood. I was like, why do people do more stuff in their life? We've got enough going on in our day-to-day. Why would you add in a hobby? But this recent shift in my thinking and reflecting on how I hadn't seen dancing as a creative outlet. It was just something that I did because I had a lot of energy, and fortunately something I filled up very quickly. But now that I have this new way of thinking about it being very, very healthy to have a creative outlet, I'm like, man, I want to bring this back into my life. I tend to dance a lot around my home in the morning. If the sunrise is amazing, I'll crank some tunes and I'll be in my pajamas dancing around the kitchen, brushing my teeth, whatever. But I'm looking forward to bringing some intentionality back into that, and not being as spontaneous, but actually planning moments where I can use that as a release for those, the busyness in your brain. So it's just something, I've done through my life because I've had lots of energy, but there's that lovely shift happening for me now where I'm really seeing a value in it for me. So it might look the same from the outside, I'm just taking another dance class, but for me, that intention has completely shifted from just something to do, but to being something hugely valuable as a healthy brain tool.
Exactly.
So
love that you really highlight that connection. And also most people, unless they study psychology, we do think of, this child has too much energy, they need to burn that off. That excess physical energy needs to be utilized. Every human understands it. However, like you said, to get rid of the busyness in the brain, that's what you now, or not anymore, but you used to use dancing for that after a while. Just like the relationship to the mountain change. First it was a workout tool, and then it was something else, and a tool for awareness and hugging and
connection.
Connection and being present. And the same goes for, like you said, if we don't use our mental energy and burn that off through creative and productive tasks, which could be also both, then we take that mental energy, it needs to be used. It doesn't go anywhere. You can't just say, poof, go away, extra thoughts. No, they turn nasty. They turn into imposter syndrome, anxiety.
Your brain is looking for things to do and things to think about and problems to solve. Job. It will create those issues. And it's good to reflect, but there is a limit to that. And particularly if you have a busy brain. Intentionally knowing that something can give you a release from that, and that those negative thoughts that can weave their way in, we don't have to listen to those. It can be really, really powerful. So I'm really grateful that I've stumbled upon this new way of thinking.
We like you said, the thoughts are there. We don't have to listen to those. So I've been exposed to a lot of meditation in my life, and there are some teachers who say, try to silence the thoughts. I do not agree with them anymore. I tried initially, and then I learned different techniques that worked better for me. And rather than forcing the thoughts to go, shush, I do not want to think that. Well, guess what happens? You think about it even more. So the tool, the magic sauce for the peace and the acceptance is to watch these thoughts, maybe question, are they true? Do they serve me? And then let them go like clouds, but not forcing yourself to not think, because that's what the brain is for. It wants to think. It wants to make sense of the world, make new things, make stuff with mental energy. And just like physical energy needs to be utilized. And so you found dance, and now you have probably other things that you do with your mental energy. And where do they go at the moment? What is something that you currently think about a lot?
That is a very, very good question.
I'm full of them.
At the moment, I think I'm just in a really reflective phase. Really challenging things that I've just been doing without intention my entire life. Relationships I've had and friendships I have, all of these sorts of things, just allowing whatever comes up and just checking in with that and just seeing how I want it to land going forward. So just a lot of reflection in a really natural, comfortable way. A lot's been coming up for me, just little bubbles here and there, and just allowing those to come through. And
so you're in tune with the seasons.
Yes.
Because now we're in winter in New Zealand, and it's often a time where people go inwards and search and discover and curiously, dig a little deeper. And it's all usually happening in a safe, comfortable, cozy space, or maybe a tent on the mountaintop, and then you challenge yourself and say, what's happening here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when the discomfort often brings out these moments of, do I accept or do I fight? Do I accept or do I fight? And so you willingly putting yourself into situations physically that are uncomfortable, or I'm assuming, you know, pole dancing training is difficult because you cannot use most of the muscles you use for hill climbing. You use more of your core and your upper arm strength
and
for those.
And you use all of the softest parts of your skin, you know, your arms and your thighs, the parts of your body that you never exert any force on.
Yeah, they will be bruised.
Your entire body weight is hanging off your armpit. Practicing the discomfort in those ways that are safe.
You know, you say practicing discomfort with such a smile. It's like it's like the best advertisement for get out there, feel crap for a bit. It will be great, trust me. Love it.
Oh, I think it's important. And it's something that we talk about with our tamariki. We recognise sometimes that they have these blockages, and it's from just a little bit of discomfort, and so we practice safe discomfort. For example, you know, for a real example, we have a child who has difficulty with problem solving. And so we've introduced these complex puzzles. They're layered. They're really, really tricky. And so what we do is we sit alongside this child and we show her how to have success with this. And then when things don't work, there's a problem. Let's try something different. And so it's that safe discomfort.
Modeling acceptance again.
Absolutely.
And modeling acceptance and adaptability.
Absolutely. And so we've done that a lot with her now, and now she is the child in the class who's the only one who can successfully achieve them on their own, and so she's become the leader. And she said, no, it doesn't matter, we just solve the problem. If this piece doesn't work, we try another piece, you know. So it's very, very simple, but just practicing that discomfort.
And if people can learn this at such a young age, right? There's something I would like to ask you on that topic, because the person I just interviewed before you, she also has your same personality type. I attract the rare ones, I told you. And she's also in education. However, her main career path was in adult education and in the creative fields like video production, the digital media, and from tutoring and guiding adults. You try to help these very, very young humans to make sense of the world and not lose themselves, you know, not being indoctrinated like the old ways of schooling that we, unfortunately, you and I probably went through. What is the secret sauce in teaching young people? What have you found works very well? Because you also started teaching adults at first, when you were the initial, you know, door opener to this career pathway. What is the main thing that you respect or focus on when you teach a very young person?
Such a fabulous question. And I think this would be something I would be passionate about as well. So it answers that question a little bit earlier from before. I get really frustrated with stereotypes that are unhelpful, that are perpetuated. And so something that I advocate very strongly for in my practice is those stereotypes. An example is we work on a main thoroughfare for emergency vehicles, and every time a police goes past, the children say they're off to catch the baddies.
Okay. And
I find that deeply uncomfortable, knowing that those people who are referred to as the baddies, you know, if there is someone who's being seen as a criminal or doing something illegal, those are actually people who are suffering. Those are people who have a lack in their life. And so a conversation I have with the tamariki is, in terms that they understand, I said the police are always on their way to help. And I said often those people, because they're hearing the term baddies in the media, they're hearing it in their children's cartoons that they're watching, baddies. And I say to the children, I said those people, if they're taking something, I said it's because that they don't have something. You know, and I said those are people who are very, very sad.
They're saddies, not baddies.
They're saddies, not baddies. And so another example is children will often pick up a big something and then a small something, and they'll say, this is the mummy, this is the daddy, the big something, and this is the mummy, the small something. And just those little things. And I don't shut down what they're saying or their interpretation of the world, but I say, you know, what makes you say that? And just understanding where they're coming from. And I say, well, did you know sometimes this could be the mummy or this could be the daddy? Or when they're in the whānau play area, the family play area, and they might say, there can only be one mum in the family. Just a passing comment. Did you know there can be more than one mum? Just those little moments that just open the door and shift the thinking from those rigid stereotypes that no longer serve us. And I think that openness just creates room for growth and will have benefits into the future.
So that means in terms of, what is most important when you teach a young person, it's not even to give them extra information, it's to give them a more perspective-rich view on the world. Yeah. Before you can then start teaching something else on top, you have to remove certain layers that they have already been given that limit them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that will be perpetuated in the current, things that they're exposed to. But it just gives them understanding, oh, okay, in this situation, somebody's referred to as that, but it doesn't always have to be that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which leads me so much quickly into your top 5 VII strengths, which just one of them is perspective. And it's one that I haven't seen before. The human CV is still quite new, but there have been a couple of dozens being made, and I have not seen perspective shown up yet. And I have my little cheat sheet here.
Yes, because I
asked ChatGPT, if I was to explain these VII strengths to a teenager, how would you, explain them? Because that's just so much nicer if younger people watch this. So perspective, one of your top 5. These are not in order. They are in alphabetical order. That's how the software does it. So it might be even your number 1, who knows? But it's meaning you see the big picture and can help others make sense of things. Friends come to you for advice because you offer calm and wise thoughts, and you help people feel more hopeful by showing them a wider view. Yes, there can be 2 mums, or the mom can be the big one and the dad can be the small one. And I'm sure we all have friends where stereotypes are completely being not smashed, let's call them cleaned up. Positive language,
Yeah, refined.
Yeah, refined, absolutely. And
polished.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like you were saying, if a young person already has that stereotype, well, you can't layer anything else on top if that opinion has been already cemented in a young person's brain. So it's crazy to me that you as teachers have to do so much of that cleanup work, that the mothers and fathers do a little bit of that shaping already, but then you see in school or in a group of children already these stereotypes being perpetuated, often to their detriment or to their disadvantage, and then you have to start doing the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming reversals, before you can start teaching them about the big and perspective-rich world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that we do in early childhood. Sometimes it feels like there's expectations on us, or that we put expectations on ourselves to change the world.
Yes.
Because we see that there is that potential. Quality early childhood education is a real gift, and there is huge potential for meaningful shift. On big levels. But there's so many moments in a day. There's thousands of moments in a day, and it's just that one moment that you tap into. But imagine if we were able to tap into all of that shift and all of that openness and that awareness and that understanding.
Yeah. If someone watches this and they're a young person, they are also at the start of their career, of their working life, and they're considering going into your path, into your industry, what is something that surprised you initially as you started working in this field? What is an advice that you would give a young person saying, I would love to be in early childhood education?
It's a really good question. I think self-awareness and knowing how to care for yourself.
Yeah. Answering all the psychological questions, drinking all the teas.
Drinking all the teas.
Yeah.
I think knowing how you operate and what your strengths are will serve you in an environment when you're needing to make decisions and prioritize. Because in early childhood, we have this contrast between 20 crying tamariki, or they're not all crying at the same time, not on a good day, but some children who are just, they're in various emotional states, and so you're needing to be able to support these emotional states. So you need to be able to regulate yourself, to be able to respond appropriately. And then you have parental views that we must uphold. We have our early childhood curriculum we must uphold. We have government directives we must uphold. We have our centre philosophies and visions, and we also have our own experience and our own learning. And so in any given moment, you have two sides of this coin that are very, very different, very, very academic, and then very, very emotional. And you have to be able to bridge that, and you're doing that all day long. And so it is such a treasure, and it's a lot of fun. But the tools that will help you are knowing yourself well and how you work, and so that you can, because you do need to do planning and things in your day, and you can plan it to your best advantage. And also being able to regulate yourself and knowing how to fill your own cup. because the days in early childhood are just so very, very busy. And your team will want to support you, but they might be needing to be emotionally available to a small group of tamariki as well. So knowing what fills you up will see you have the best time.
Absolutely. Yes. It's almost like I think it's in Spider-Man in the movie where it says, with great power comes great responsibility. And I was like, it's a lot of fun if we get it right. But there's this big, voice in the back of your mind saying, but anything I can say or do right now can traumatize someone forever or can influence them for the better. And so it's amazing how much power our words, but also our role modeling, like our showing up, being calm and steady when the police sirens go off outside. And you're just like, no, let's talk about baddies for a moment and why that word came up and so on. Beautiful. I would love to... Oh, hello. The birds are agreeing. I hope nobody's injured. Nope. People, books, or courses that shaped me is one of my favorite segments in this Human CV, and you gave me a lot to work with. Or to
good.
Play
I didn't think I did.
Oh, you did.
I was brain dumping very quick. It's probably full of spelling mistakes that I was like, I don't even care. I just need to get some ideas down.
Authenticity. Yeah, right. No imposter syndrome here. You gave me books. You gave me, I am assuming that's a movie?
That's a book.
A book?
Yeah.
Okay, I have not read that one. And then you even gave me a person, and I'm super happy because I do know that person. So hearing from you about that person will offer a different perspective once more. But let's start with the book. You mentioned Blink, and you talk about intuition, and I have read it ages ago. Tell me, or the viewers who have never come across that, why is it so awesome? What's the core message of the book?
Oh, well, Blink combines two things that I really love. Blink talks about intuition, but it backs it up with evidence, and I'm like, yes, this is, I love intuition, and sometimes I find it hard to quantify. Not that it needs to be quantified, but I love that it is backed up by evidence. So an example in Blink is a firefighter has turned up to this fire to attend the fire, to put it out, goes to walk in the door, and his instinct tells him to get out, get out, get out, get out. And not long after, like several seconds after he got out, the entire building collapses. And he was reflecting on why his intuition told him to get out. He said, I don't know what was happening there, but something told me to get out. I'd never had that before, and I'm glad I chose to listen. But later, when they were doing the fire investigation, they were able to identify that the color of the smoke was different. And there was other physical clues in the environment, and this was all in like milliseconds. There was other clues in the environment that his brain had picked up on that his consciousness had not yet registered, and so his instinct kicked in and said, you need to get out of here. And it turned out that the fire was actually on the lower story, burning through the floor when they thought it was on the upper story. And they were entering, onto that second story. The other one was down low. And I just love that it identifies how cool and important and valuable our intuition is, because I am very intuitive. My intuition is like a muscle. I actively strengthen it. I test myself. I test my intuition, but also when my intuition speaks, I listen. And when I get it right, I'm like, yes. So that spoke to me because it's something that I'm interested in.
It's a fascinating book. It's full of these examples like you shared.
Examples of intuition and how it speaks before our consciousness can click into those things that our experiences are picking up on.
You're getting all fired up.
I think intuition is not something I talk about with many people.
Is there a reason for it, or just didn't come up in conversation?
In my experience, a lot of people are out of touch with their intuition, and when I'm making these decisions, and sometimes they're completely intuitive but they're absolutely bang on, people don't believe that I'm doing it intentionally. There's sort of I know,
it's not rational.
Where does that come from? And I'm just like, don't you worry. I'm like, it's just the way it is. And then it turns out to be exactly true, and then they're kind of going, how did you know? Or was that a complete coincidence? And I was like, no, I told you, because my intuition told me, you know.
It works like this, and it's scary sometimes how accurate it is.
Yes. I've had many instances in my life. And, people can argue that it's confirmation bias or what have you, and sometimes it is. But,
well, if we look at science, because you just mentioned the book is so good. I think it's Malcolm Gladwell, if I remember the author right. Not sure. And anyways, there was something also by scientists, you know, that they set up this thing. They had like a slideshow, different images. Some of the images were brutal, graphic, violence, you know, these kind of things. And they measured. So somebody like me would sit in front of this monitor of this slideshow going on, and they measured with electrodes on the head, and they wanted to see, can intuition predict the next thing? And it was true. So for example, there were like 3 happy pictures, and then there was maybe one of a dead deer or something gruesome. And people would obviously, when they see it, react, and that is measurable by science. So the people would, milliseconds, like you said, like the firefighter, milliseconds before a violent graphic or in any way emotionally upsetting image came on that screen, they would know it. The gut would light up. It literally was like, and now something bad happens. And of course they did randomized slides. They didn't go 1, 2, 3 ugly, 1, 2, 3 ugly.
That would be a little bit straightforward.
Exactly. So it is proven. There is no arguing that, oh, it's just some, you know, irrelevant, non-reliable, woo-woo emotional thing. It's there. It's actually now also, there's interesting research in leadership and management on which leaders make the best decisions. Are those the ones that only use data or only use the gut feeling or a combination of both? If yes, how much of each? Fascinating research. Long story short, intuition wins.
Yes. Yeah, and we know that. Well, I know that.
Yeah, we felt it before we even knew. Yeah, but the funny thing is what most people don't understand. We call it in English gut feeling. There are more brain cells in the gut region than are actually in the brain region. And there is an axis combining the two. There's a vagus nerve that does a lot of the comms. It's like an autobahn or a speedway between those two. And most people have never looked into that, just like most people have never looked into their own skills and strengths.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I'm really happy how passionately you talk about this book, and there are really practical visual examples in there. So your next life, firefighting?
Probably not firefighting. No, I'm not sure what the next life will hold.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. In this life, you met someone who introduced you to consciousness and self-awareness, and his name is Bear Hart. What should people know about Bear and self-consciousness and awareness and all these topics you can talk to him about?
Well, before I met Bear, I was zipping through life. I was just skimming across the surface. It was interesting because I felt very, very happy in these times, but I believe that it was a little bit of ignorance is bliss. I was self-absorbed, but I was just living my own life. I was just doing my own thing, just 100 miles an hour, zipping across the surface. It was like walking on water, you know. I was just going so fast, I couldn't sink into anything a little bit deeper. And I met Bear, and, you know, he just lived his life in a very conscious, intentionally conscious way, choosing to reflect on the way that he interacted with the world, and just opened my eyes to this entire new way of thinking, all of, just everything about self-awareness and healing and questioning things you've been doing and those relationships you've had and how they've shaped you and your role within that. All of that stuff, I had no awareness of that before, and it just turned my world like 180 degrees. And then I was able to meet, you know, more people like yourself, and it just really opened my eyes to a whole another way of being. And then I was able to continue on my own journey, but just with like a new lens.
It's so humbling to hear you say that, because often when people are in this running on water, you know, tap dancing over
so fast. I just, you know,
you still must have been ready to listen to someone like him or other teachers that no doubt came to you in the form of books or other things, right? And there are often moments in life that redefine who you are, or they force you to sit down and not move.
Yeah.
And then you might be going, what else is out there? What else could I have a bigger perspective on? Because you also have love of learning. So you are able to tune in into whatever you want to. Like you say, you have this obsessive nature of this is the thing, and I'm going all in. What was it at that time when you met Bear? And for those who don't know him, he's not a monk who lives on a a mountaintop. He's a regular human being currently doing a counseling master, I believe, from what I know. What was it in the time that you were, you know, able to dive deeper? Was there a change in your life that happened, or what made you stop the 100 miles an hour skipping around? Another good question.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on the time frame. I think what it was I was very single and very busy and just running around doing all of this stuff, but within that I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. I was trying to appear all of these things that were not true to me. And so I think meeting Bear, who was very true to himself because of all of that consciousness and that self-awareness and that reflection, was very, very authentic. And here I was being so much of this and so much of that and all of this stuff, trying to put forward this image of who I thought I should be, or what it was I was this culmination of like societal and external expectations.
Yeah.
And bringing my awareness to all of that was a bit of a shift. And I remember going through this really intense process of shedding and questioning, is this me, or is this a societal thing that I have taken on board, a societal pressure or way of being that I've adopted, but it's not true to me. So that was kind of what happened after that. And it was just through questioning and reflective and just bringing awareness to what it is exactly that we're doing, and why are we doing these things? Does this serve me? Does this not? And so those sorts of questions I'd never asked before, but those were the things that Bear was able to bring to my awareness.
Wow. Kudos to him.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And kudos to you for listening and taking things on board and applying them, because I often feel that spiritual awakening or acceptance or shedding old egos or whatever, umbrella term we want to gather those things under, they can often be seen as a glow up. Now I'm lighter. Now I'm so much, it's ugly.
Yeah,
it's an ugly process.
Yeah.
And often it takes a kind person and a supportive, safe space to be able to acknowledge those things, name them, question yourself stuff.
Yeah, and it was a really hard process. Yeah. And some of it was intentional, but also some of it kind of happened naturally. Like once I'd kind of taken, opened the can of worms or let the dam burst.
The other
once
worms
I'd
came
scratched
crawling.
the surface, everything was just like, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I'm in this really vulnerable position where I'm not sure who I am, but I was just like, I can feel this tiny little core of me, and it felt a little bit like a rebuilding process. Which parts of me have I squashed because of all of this other junk that I've taken on board? So which part, and it was about a rebuilding. So it was pretty ugly when all the dam burst, and I was like, whoa, all of this stuff is coming through that I don't know why I've been being this way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a critical moment. No. I wasn't criticizing myself at all in any capacity. But it was really, really raw. And then just taking that time to go, gosh, I used to love when I did this, or I was so empowered when I did this. Let me bring a little bit back of that into my life. But then probably like in conjunction, Bear was interested in those sorts of similar things as well. So that time we spent together, as well as bringing that awareness for me to ask those questions, those things that did light me up, we were in alignment in those ways.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah.
So just a perfect storm of growth and change and shift and co-journeying.
Yeah. Caterpillar butterflying.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful because I can see the pattern now. You did it for yourself. Now you're doing it for tamariki or children. You destroy old stereotypes and you introduce a new way of being. And you had to do that you had to do this for yourself first before you can now apply it more consciously in your day-to-day work with very vulnerable young brains that can be so easily influenced and shaped. What was the easier part for you? Was it the dismantling, shedding, letting go? Or was it then, once the slate was clean and it was a bit raw initially, then layering on new ways of being, or, this kind of shaping you into who you are now? Which parts felt easier?
I definitely think the dismantling
was
easier.
Speak on that.
Yeah, just reflecting, it's taken me, and still is taking me, time to build back up. That's taken years. Like the dismantling happened, it felt like overnight, sort of probably really within like 6 months or so.
Right.
A really, really short time frame. I was just like, I don't want any of this stuff anymore.
Amazing.
I'm acting in these ways. My patterns of behavior in these ways because these are outside influences I don't want to take on. So very quickly it was like ripping off Band-Aids.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then that rebuilding process has taken a long time, I think, because it took a long time for all of that stuff to to pile on.
Yeah.
And so it was a long time ago that those parts of me that I loved or celebrated or acknowledged as a child were squashed, you know. So I had, they were very dim flame that I had to
tend to.
Yeah.
Wow. This gives hope for a lot of people who are currently stuck in whatever they call it, dark night of the soul or dismantling process, or I always call it the mush cave, because it's like the caterpillar turns to mush in the chrysalis.
Absolute.
And then there is the butterfly. So I keep joking, whenever there's a major event in my life, I'm like, I'm currently mushing, like just being squashed to tiny particles and then reassembling myself once more. And I think once you've been through this process it's like the first heartbreak is the worst.
Yeah.
And then the more iterations you have, like Alison 40.0.
Of course. Yeah.
I'll go there.
Bit faster this time.
Probably it's like when you go up the mountain, like this hurts, but then the way down is so much easier, or whatever it is for you, right? I would love to jump back one more time to the intuition topic, because you mentioned a really interesting thing. You said not only do you understand your intuition, you actively apply it, you even convince others to follow you in that moment of you are being clear because your gut is speaking so loud. You mentioned something, I'm testing my intuition. Is that muscle testing that you do? Can you speak on something that helps people to not only be more in touch with their intuition, but once they have that notice of this is what my belly tells me, to also test it?
So a really simple example would be, even if you're watching a quiz show on TV and I've got no idea what the answer is, I will just sit for a moment. So this is just like a baseline way that I would do it. It's just sit, and I've got no idea of the answer, and I would just see what comes through, and I would absolutely trust that. I'm listening. I will say to myself, I'm listening. I'm listening. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but it's the act of telling myself I'm listening to you. And I'm like, that's okay, because your intuition comes from everything that your brain has perceived your entire life. And so there would be reasons for you thinking the way that you did. And I don't criticize myself for that. I don't go, oh, your intuition was wrong. I just like, oh, okay, there was something in my experience that led me to that conclusion. Or there'll be other times when I'll be like, a more open-ended example is I'll be walking along the road and I'll just be listening, or I'll ask myself what's going to happen next. And I see what comes up. And just trusting that and just listening to that. So there are probably more examples that I can't think of now, because that's just sort of woven into part of my day. But something that has a concrete outcome that you could test yourself on and have a little bit of fun with. But just the act of choosing to listen, and I tell myself I'm listening. Or those more open-ended examples of what do I think is going to happen? What do I think is going to happen here? What's that person going to do next? And just
being open,
just having fun with it.
Being curious too.
And I always, when I get something right, I'm always just like, thank you. Cheers.
I'm listening, and it worked, and I keep listening, because again, it's a conversation with yourself, not in a schizophrenic, disassociative sort of way, but rather in a curious, checking in with your subconscious, which most psychologists know is so much more powerful than the conscious brain. We do 90% of our day in the subconscious state. If we had to consciously do all the stuff that's happening subconsciously, it would not work. We have to listen to intuition, because it's so much bigger. It taps into a worldwide or universal wide web of the unknown, or the collective known, as I like to call it, because we don't know it consciously, but we can tap into it through those other senses or receptors. It's fascinating to me. What is a question that you wish more teachers would be asked by parents?
Oh, that's a really good question. What question?
And what do you wish more parents would know about you as teachers, or would inquire more with you, whether it's about their children or their own way of parenting at home, or maybe even the practices at school?
In the past, in my career, there are lots of times that I wish that parents were parenting differently.
In what way?
Lots of times we can see lack of empowerment for the child. We're trained in child development, so we have that understanding of a lot of benefits of things such as expectations for tamariki, behavior and all of those things, and it comes from a lens of supporting them to develop skills for life. And so, but recently what I've learned is that parenting and teaching are very, very, very different. And what I'm working on actually at the moment is finding a new alignment in those relationships. In the past, parents have asked us things about child development and we've given them strategies, but I'm seeing that we're operating in different worlds. Often at home and in our community there are two parents at home with one or two children. These children are getting a lot of attention a lot of the time. In early childhood there's two teachers and up to 20 children. Some environments are bigger, and so by the nature of those logistics they are completely different environments. But I think something that I would love for parents to feel, parents are very, very, very responsive. And by the nature of early childhood, we are responsive when we're available. But when your attention is split between more children, we can't be as responsive. But sometimes that can support the children to actually be empowered. And I'm talking about this in a positive way. We actively encourage children to seek support from other children. If there's a problem, we're encouraging them to solve that, find ways to solve that on their own within reason, and seek support from the other tamariki around them, if we're supporting somebody or what have you. Whereas at home, that responsiveness is so much more immediate simply by the logistics and the ratios. So sometimes something I'd love to see, for parents is being able to say to their child, I can see that you're struggling with this, but I believe that you can do it on your own. Or that you can have a try, and not to create separation, but to empower that little person to believe in themselves and that they can face challenges. Because that resilience is very, very, it underlies a lot of different ways of interacting with the world. That belief in their self. And then, of course, once they've reached their capacity and given it a go, they've done half of the job to the best of their ability, absolutely stepping in and showing them that the world is a safe place, a trusting place, and a helpful place. So finding that balance between empowerment but wraparound support. So I didn't really answer your question of a question that I wish parents would ask, but that's a dynamic.
But it's something that parents can start to understand and accept and celebrate more, that at home my child might get, it's one of two children, so it gets 50% of the manpower or woman power in the household. And then at school, like you said, it might just be 10% or 5%, depending on how large the groups are and how available the teachers are. And it's so funny to me that what you are speaking about in this young person's life plays out exactly in the leadership coaching space in which I'm at. So you giving a child the authority and the trust to find their own way, to seek advice from some other child, it gives them power because you're not micromanaging. And often the leaders that I coach, there can be issues with, hey, my team doesn't trust me, or hey, I feel like I have to micromanage everybody. Well, why is that? Are you too available? Are you too hands-on? Or like you described yourself when you grew up as a free-range child. I love that term. When I was young, my dad would give me a pocket knife at the age of 4, and I was able to carve. No child protection services would come and say bad person. Now it was like, as long as she's supervised and she knows how to carve, then that's all good. Absolutely. Why not? Still have all my fingers, so it's good.
Let's equip children. They are very, 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 very capable.
Such a good answer. I would like to take one more little story time with you, and that is one thing you just said about your school, and the parenting environment is so different from the school environment because of what we just talked about. There's one additional thing, and it has to do with Te Ao Maori, so the indigenous population of New Zealand. We have a lot of schools that introduce some concept from this indigenous knowledge and their ways of being and their songs and maybe even their ways of healing into the school curriculum, often as a unit or a class in itself. However, you said to me just briefly before, you had a beautiful experience yesterday, which includes a bunch of Te Reo or Maori words, which we probably have to translate underneath. However, there's a pōwhiri, and also that your school is including Te Ao Maori principles in much better ways than you've seen before. Can you share a bit more about that? The pride and the joy that comes from yesterday's experience. It was so beautiful.
So in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in early childhood, we have a bicultural curriculum. So we have Te Whāriki, and that is the curriculum. It is written in English, and it's also written in Te Reo Māori. And they're actually slightly different. But as an English-speaking school, we operate under the English version, but woven within that is the bicultural practice. So it's important that we are always on a journey to understand te ao Māori and be implementing those practices at our school. So something that we have done recently is understand our cultural locatedness. And that means actually knowing the history of the whenua of the land that we're on. So in consultation with Ngāi Tahu, we have created what we call our cultural narrative, which is the story of our area. And so at our classroom, we have actually renamed our classrooms to be Māori names, and they are the names of Māori plants that grow within our area. We're near a river. And to extend on that knowledge and actually bring tangata whenua, the people of the land, into the picture, so that we are doing this with integrity. We were invited to Rapaki Marae for a pōwhiri to be formally welcomed into their community, so that we can begin a reciprocal relationship. And so yesterday I went along to Rapaki Marae, and we were formally welcomed with kōrero and waiata, conversation and song. And we were in the whare, the meeting house, where we were able to immerse ourselves in the rich history of this area. And so what that means is now we can go back to our school and look at the changes that we have made. With the renaming of the classroom, we have a beautiful mural with our local area painted on it. How can we gift the knowledge to the tamariki that this is the story of our whenua, our land, and that there were people who were here before us whose knowledge is valued. So it's going to be a journey of bringing that to life. And so it's really just the beginning.
Wow.
But it's very, very exciting.
Yeah. What was the driving force in your school behind doing that? Why did they say, we want to do more than just teaching the required unit standards?
It is written in our curriculum that this is a requirement, and some centres can do that just very lightly with, like you said, just introducing the songs, and we wanted to do it properly, and it's something that we've been on a journey on. I've been at where I'm at now for over 8 years, and all of that time, but we are Pākehā. Everybody in our team is Pākehā. The
non-Aboriginal people, white people.
And so it's been very, very challenging. And we've made little changes, we've done Google research, but none of it felt deep enough or interwoven enough. And so we were like, no, that we really need to push and be brave here and be courageous and actually take that next step and acknowledge that we're learning a whole new culture, but be okay with that and take those first steps, overcome that hurdle. We'd done all the little bits, and then there was just this little part that we needed to break through to really get to the good stuff. And it was so, initially it was, like not an obligation, but it was a requirement. It was something that as early childhood educators, this is something you simply need to be doing. And having done that for many years and not landing in the way that we wanted, we were like, no, it's time for us to step up.
All in, like you said earlier, you can't just do things halfway.
Absolutely.
I love that you just shared this extra last little piece of information, because it means there is zero excuses for a non-Maori including team, a staff that is purely made up by the second wave of settlers in this country. There's no excuses. There's Google. You can find out things. You can include the children or the parents of the children, say, well, what would feel appropriate? What would feel meaningful? Should we have a school garden planting natives, or learn about the healing effects of these plants, or whatever the children find interesting and fun, playful? Don't have to make it dry and boring. I mean, you're dealing with young children.
And start small and achievable. And some advice that we were given, we said, what can we do to strengthen our journey? And that was to be curious, genuinely curious. It is common knowledge within New Zealand that the Māori culture, that there is the tikanga, there is respect in the rules, and that is really respect. There's a lot of respect within the culture, and so people can be hesitant to engage. But if you are entering with genuine curiosity, that will be well received. So you can feel confident to be genuinely curious if you are wanting to grow your understanding.
Yeah, which is the ultimate panacea against anything, imposter syndrome. If you're genuinely curious about your thoughts, what am I thinking? Imposter syndrome will go away. If you're genuinely curious about your career search and just try out a teacher aide position, then you might turn it into a whole beautiful career, and you're glowing. You're talking about this with such, radiating and shining, and just really living these values that are showing up in your human CV. So I want to just thank you for being here. And if people see this and they're like, I want to have a chat with Alison, I want to, whether they are fellow teachers, educators, parents, where can they find you? How would you like to be found? How can people approach you if they want to continue this corridor or chat?
People are welcome to follow me on my Instagram, and I welcome the challenge as well. Often I put forward my best self, so dig a little deeper. Do say, hey, is this a highlight reel, or is this is this a real moment? I welcome that. Or email is fine. If people would like to reach out to me, I welcome those communications.
I'm so happy we had this time. As I said, there was not really a chance before to really dig deeper in your story and your passions, and I love that we had this little outline to navigate some very deep, profound insights, and you're so articulate and passionate about what you do. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.